Hey everybody, what's up and welcome to episode 61 of Into the Necrosphere, my first installment of 2021. And because I've been away for a couple of weeks, I knew that I was going to have to come back throwing some serious heat. So I sent out the bat signal to my friend Evan Hopper of Quell. Quell is just about to put out an EP called Turning the Sun to Stone, and Evan came on the show to talk about that, talk about the culture wars, coronavirus. I shared some fairly candid thoughts on the podcast with him. And we had a blast for about 90 minutes. I'm sure you guys are going to have a blast listening to it as well. Also, coming up later on in the show, I'm going to be doing some reviews of a few records that flew under the radar at the back end of 2020. The debut by a Polish band called Königreichssaal. The record is called Witnessing the Dearth, and quite frankly, it could very easily have made my top 10, if not my top 20, had it come out a month earlier. I'm also going to be talking about the new Scour EP, simply entitled Black. And I am going to be throwing all sorts of shade at the metal news. So stick around until the very end for that 15-minute rant session. In the meantime, if this is your first time discovering the podcast, then do remember that the podcast posts new episodes every Tuesday on YouTube, iTunes, or I think it's now called Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Castbox, Google Podcasts, and just about any other podcast platform that you can imagine, for free. So if the spirit moves you to do so, give me a like, comment, share, subscribe, post a review if you're able to, because that just helps me get great guests further down the line. And to those that have newly subscribed, of which actually I saw quite a lot over Christmas, a massive thank you. I hope you guys have enjoyed what you've seen so far. I am very excited about the next 12 months. I also just wanted to say, just before this episode goes any further, you would have seen on my conversation with Evan that I was wearing an AEW t-shirt, and that is not only because I'm a fan of AEW, but I was doing so in subtle tribute to Brody Lee, aka Luke Harper, aka John Huber of pro wrestling fame. He passed away on the day that I recorded that interview, and I'm not somebody that's going to get overly sentimental about somebody that I've never met, but at the same time, he was 41 years old, left behind a wife and family, and that is just no kind of age for a man to die. So on the off chance that anybody that knew John is watching this, my heartfelt condolences. I thought I should just share that with all of you. I know that not everybody that listens to the show is a pro wrestling fan. I am, particularly of AEW, and I always thought that Brody Lee was absolutely top notch, particularly when you went to AEW. So anyway, thought I would just share that with all of you guys. And now, without any further ado, let's get this motherfucker on the road. I mean, quite frankly, I think we could probably have, if we had saved the first phone conversation or Zoom conversation we had, that was just over an hour. That could probably have been a podcast episode all by itself as well.
That was a good time. But I think both of us have the gift of gab, so we can probably make another hour and a half or two.
Yeah. No, for sure.
How was your Christmas? Everything good?
Yeah, it was good. I defied the tier 4 lockdown rules yesterday, and I went to go see a friend of mine.
Yeah.
And in fairness, I could probably have made the argument that I'm his support bubble. His wife has been, so he had the fucking worst luck on the face of the earth. He had tickets to go to South Africa on the 2nd of January.
Okay.
And his wife had gone a couple of weeks ahead of him, but he stayed behind for various reasons. And then literally on the eve, I think straight after he bought his tickets, the tier 4 rules came out. And then when the tier 4 rules came out and mutant COVID hit, all of a sudden flights from the UK started getting banned again. He's not allowed to South Africa. So the poor guy ended up spending Christmas Day, talking to family on Zoom, and all of them are going, we're having a fucking great time, and the poor guy is stuck here in the gray and the shit weather. So I went to go see him. But beyond that, we had a pretty chilled out time, exactly as I would have wanted it to be. I fired up the smoker, did some beef ribs and some spare ribs.
Oh, nice.
We were going to watch a Christmas movie, and then my girlfriend said, why don't you play why don't you play The Last of Us 2 again for a little bit? because I've been replaying it, and I said to her, it's probably because you are more interested in seeing me play that than you are in watching any of my equivalents of a Christmas movie. So she admitted that was the case, and off we went. So that was my Christmas day.
Do you have like what would you consider like your go-to Christmas movies?
Go-to Christmas movies? Not really. I'd say Die Hard for a period of time was. I probably watched that almost every Christmas, but nowadays not really.
I have the Christmas Vacation. That's like a must with Chevy Chase. Like just watching that poor bastard like just get beat up the whole movie just always brings a smile to my face. Like, so good.
But how was Christmas in Sweden? Because I saw the other day that the king or the president over there is kind of finally having to relent to global pressure and say, well, we have to maybe start considering a lockdown now.
Yeah, Carl Gustaf, the king, he finally came down. I don't know when it was, like maybe like a week or two ago, maybe like a week ago. He came down on this guy Tegnell. He's like the health minister here in Sweden. He was the main dude who was kind of like advocating the herd immunity concept. And I guess now with the mutation and more people getting sick, especially with traveling for holidays and stuff, they're having to change their slant on it. I think part of it is self-preservation, and then part of it's also like maybe just making it stricter so other people like who aren't considering some of the risk factors and stuff like will maybe consider it a little bit more. None of it's like law, so like it's all just like recommendations. So I mean, I suppose you could get you can get some fines. For instance, like if you're a business and you stay open too late, like you'll definitely get hit with something like that. As an individual, I don't know. We opted to not travel. My girlfriend and I, we opted not to travel this Christmas. So we just stayed home and did Christmas together, and then we saw 2 other friends for dinner on Christmas night. Her family got together out in Gothenburg, but they were I think they were under the requirements are, or not the requirements, but like the recommendations are like no more than 8 people. So they were under that. So I think everyone's adhering to, I mean, it's in Sweden and I think in most of Scandinavia, I mean, there's a good trust in the government. So most people like, adhere to what the regulations are and stuff like that for the most part.
I would say over here, people generally don't give a shit.
Yeah, same in America.
They're like super heavy-handed about everything. There's signs up everywhere when you drive. There's, flashing billboards, Tier 4, stay at home, and people don't give a fuck. The roads were still busy when I was driving. People were still out yesterday because we went for a walk, and I actually wanted to go check out, this buddy of mine lives near where I used to live. So I wanted to go to see a few of the spots that I liked to frequent before was still open. We went there. Everything was shut, but I mean, there was still people out in force.
Yeah, there's people out too. Like, I mean, we, so I don't drive out here. So we just take like public transportation everywhere. And I mean, you can see everybody like, doing the same thing that we're doing. Like they probably had Christmas, morning breakfast with everybody, and like there, tons of people just with all their presents and everything on the trains. But I mean, everyone's kind of just keeping to themselves, not in anyone's face or anything like that. You don't really see. That's one thing you don't see here in Sweden is, I mean, people just like being irate about like someone saying, hey, you need to, stay outside while these 5 people shop, or like, wear a mask when you come in here. And most people would just kind of like take it with stride and just go with it, Which, I mean, for better or for worse, it's nice.
we're having to queue up just about everywhere that you go. It's, like I said, it's very heavy-handed. Yeah, but they, I still feel like some of the articles I've been reading recently, Sweden is almost getting a bad rap from a lot of the press. I don't know whether it's jealousy or whether it's kind of like whether it's herd mentality, which I know you sort of almost misspoke earlier when you said herd immunity, which I think is ironic because, like I said, I think there is kind of there's probably a joke in there somewhere. But I mean, it doesn't feel to me like if I look at Sweden's COVID-19 cases, it doesn't feel like given the fact that they've never had a lockdown and everything has been, quite, they've kind of taken a softer approach to a lot of other countries. It doesn't feel like they're exponentially worse off than anybody else. And actually, they've not had to take the hit to the economy that a lot of other countries have had
And
to
that's
take.
very important. I mean, I was able to, work through all of this without any sort of problem whatsoever. And, most of life as, in general, like continued on. I mean, there were a few things like I was doing university here, but I was like, because I'm not wasn't going to like a state-run university, it was a private-run university. And so all of those, like, they shut down immediately when this all first started. So did, I think, like the ground schools, like the daycares and stuff like that. I think they closed down a little bit, but the high schools and the middle schools, they were all open for most of this. And I mean, almost everything stayed open. I mean, even things that were considered non-essential, like, in the States, like if you ran a tattoo parlor, like you're pretty much fucked. I think everyone was still allowed to work. Maybe they might have had to change the business model quite a bit, but no one was telling them, shut down or anything.
Well, I mean, what they're doing in the States is it's bordering on criminal.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I know you're. We'll talk. I'm curious to kind of get your story firsthand about fucking Gulliver's Travels from Virginia all the way to Sweden. But I read an article the other day about New York, and I mean, in New York now, I think since the lockdowns began, 1,000 restaurants have shut down permanently. Like
they'll not come back. Completely. They'll not come back.
No, and people are so pissed off now that they've started to ban Andrew Cuomo from their restaurants. They're like, I think the one guy said, "You can go eat at a fucking truck stop in Albany for all I care. You're never allowed in my restaurant again." But I mean, again, I think people like Andrew Cuomo and Gavin Newsom are
even Pelosi, she did it too with the hair salon and stuff like that.
Well, it's like the mayor of Austin. He was this was, I think, mid-October. He was on Instagram or on Twitter or some social media urging people to stay at home, and then they said, "Hey, hang on. That doesn't look like his house. It doesn't look like the mayor's mansion." And then they realized the guy's on fucking holiday in Mexico.
Oh, right.
So there's very much the whole approach, particularly from a lot of the blue states in this America, seems to be, rules for thee, but not for me.
Right.
I think Pelosi out doing her hair and then saying it was a setup. It was a sting.
I think that's all, like, I mean, no, I wouldn't say all, because that's a blanketing term, but like, I mean, in every single, like, position of power, of like from law enforcement all the way up to, like, the president, there's some sort of that mentality of like, do as I say, not as I do, kind of, thing. Like, I mean, you see that all the time with like police officers, like, I mean, I've been pulled over for being on my cell phone, while driving, right? But I've seen it all the time with police officers doing it, or not wearing their seatbelt or this or that, and that's just like, I mean, what was that? That one of the guys that like helped found, I think it was Facebook. He got like run over by a police officer that was simultaneously driving while on that computer in the console of the car.
Holy
like just
shit, I didn't
ran
know
him over and killed him. Yeah, dead. Like,
Fuck, I didn't know about that at all.
But like, I mean, well, we probably won't ever know about it either, because I mean, it's like well, he was. The argument I think was at the time was that he was doing official police duties, so then he's exempt from like all the traffic laws that everyone else has to follow. But even though it resulted in somebody's death, like like how absurd is that? But I mean, I don't want to think police is such a hot topic right now. It's everything. Politicians do this shit too. I mean, you think you can trust your, the problem is with like government.
So we spoke
States,
offline.
No one trusts it.
Yeah. We spoke offline about this spending, or the COVID relief bill that's just been passed in America. And to me, if anything is the definition of politicians not giving a shit about people, it's that piece of crap.
All right.
And like I said to you, I mean, that Armageddon is near when Rashida Tlaib and Donald Trump are on the same page about something, because they were one of the only, they were two of the only people that voted against it. I think Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, Tulsi Gabbard. I don't really think there were all that many other people. I think Josh Hawley, and that's about it. and Rashida Tlaib and Tulsi, and Trump were pretty outspoken about it. But the rest, I mean, how the fuck do you approve crazy shit like that? $600 of your own tax money back. We're going to take the rest of the money that we've loaned against your name and against your kids' futures, and we're going to give it to Pakistan for gender programs. We're going to promote democracy in Venezuela.
Well, it's not
we're going to promote democracy in Nepal.
They annihilated Social Security too for the elderly in the United States as well.
The thing that people don't understand as well is, they'll look at it, they'll say, well, government's just wasting money. They're not just wasting money. That money comes back to all those crooked politicians by design, because it's, speaking engagements, book deals, donations to their campaigns, all sorts of shit. There's ways in which that money will come back to them. They just chop it up with the rest of the political class in these other countries. And that's the one thing that I think this year has underlined yet again. And that is that the name of the game, as far as politics is concerned, has always been the same. It's the light is just more, or the spotlight is just on it a lot more directly now. Take money from the private citizen and put it in the pocket of the political class. And the disgrace of it is the political class doesn't produce anything. They do nothing positive. They don't really do anything productive. They leech off of the private citizen. They couldn't exist without the private citizen. And now we're in this scenario where the question needs to be asked, well, is government, by the people, for the people, or are these just our rulers and they hold a gun to our head and say, pay up? And, we know that in next year, the year after, they're going to say, well, coronavirus really, emptied out the coffers, so we're going to have to up the taxes again. It's fucking I can't tell you how ridiculous it is. And for me, the thing that hurts me most is when I look at the average human being and I look at how low information they are and how they sit and they just take it and they sit with a smile on their face, like, oh, thank you so much. Thanks for the $600. It's really going to help. Yeah. I can buy a new TV with that money. That's going to make a big difference.
It's like, it's almost like this beggar mentality. I mean, like, where we don't feel like we are worthy of asking for more. It's absolutely ridiculous, that we have for so long, like you said, dumped money into all of these, people's pockets and programs that had no real, maybe there was some measurable difference it had on our lives, but for the most part I don't think it was. Most of this money that you pay in the United States doesn't go to the programs it says it goes to. It doesn't go to any of the things that it's supposed to go to. But this is... and then we when I say we, I mean as a conglomerate, are somehow pacified by $1,200 here, and then 9 months later $600. I mean that alone should just be slapped. That'd be again, it's like I said to you, it's like, I go in your house and I eat all your food, but then I tell you I washed the dishes. Thanks, you really helped out, or you worked for a year for a guy, and then at the end he's like, here's $20, son.
I was about to say, the way it is now is like, I washed all the dishes, but by the way, I smashed a couple of them because I was drunk.
A couple too, right?
You're most likely gonna, yes, $20, but it's gonna cost you about $80 to fix it. So yes, some of the stuff that Rand Paul tweeted about on about 3-4 days ago. So he writes, the average taxpayer pays around $10,000 in taxes. That means that they set the taxes of 5.4 million people on fire this year, and that's just what they could document in what it'll report. It doesn't come close to counting the unconstitutional things Congress spends money on. So he then lists a bunch of other stuff. They spent $25 million to teach English to rural unemployed Romanians. They also spent $36 million to study why hair turns gray. They spent $1.5 million to get Eastern Mediterranean kids to stop smoking hookah. They spent $3 million to interview San Franciscans about edible cannabis use. It's fucking mental. And like I said, what
if that's actually all true, then that's insane.
Yeah. Dude, that's 100%. I mean, Rand Paul doesn't strike me as a guy who's generally speaking, funny or a troll. He's not Trump, but he's, it's all of that stuff is true. If there was a bunch of other stuff highlighted in the spending bills, like I said, democracy in Venezuela, gender programs in Pakistan. And then the worst thing is fucking rat-faced Mitch McConnell, shows up on TV alongside Nancy Pelosi. He's like, yeah, we finally came to a bipartisan agreement. Nancy Pelosi is the same person who said that the tax cuts that the Trump administration rolled out a couple of years ago, they were giving people on average $2,000 back a year is table scraps, but somehow $600 is a big deal. It's
Right.
going to make such a difference in people's lives.
Well, like I said too, I mean, even though it didn't actually happen, I think the initial idea was that it was supposed to, boost the economy a little bit because it was around Christmas time, and it would have, most people would have been inclined to spend it on presents and stuff like that,
Yeah.
But now I don't think it's even happening, right? Because didn't Trump just say like, because it's not $2,000, it's not enough, and so they're still in limbo. It actually, nothing's actually been sent out.
No, they haven't.
Nothing will actually get sent out because they've been doing the same shit since March. They proved it as a necessity because I think it was just so chaotic. They didn't know what to fucking do, and they were buying themselves time. But after that $1,200 went by and they realized that they were able to buy themselves more and more time with more and more whatever, more sleight of hand, that kind of thing. Like look at this hand while this one's doing some other bullshit or whatever. Yeah. They were able to buy themselves all this time up to now. So, I mean, I think they're just kind of like, a lot of them are just like, well, why do we need to pay them anything? They're doing just fine on their own. I mean, that's the mentality, right? Like, it really is. I mean, whereas like, you got countries like, Sweden will pay for you when you're sick and it's no questions asked. I mean, that's where your money goes. And when you like, things like if you have a kid here, you can like take like up to 2-3 years off from working and the government pays for you. And the husband and the wife can share that sort of thing. So like, you pay a lot of money, but then when you have to like go to like the doctor or you have like something like a child come in your life, then you see the actual benefits of where the hell your money went for. I mean, if I could take 3 years off and get my same pay for 3 years, I don't think I'd be so sour about like politicians, taking money out of my paycheck every week. But when there's no benefit, or if you like have to like, I lived in California for a long time and they have like their state-run like health program, which is just a joke. It's an absolute joke. I mean, and it doesn't even, you can't go anywhere you want to go. You have to go to like, state-run approved things. They only cover this and that. They don't allow, they only cover this medication. They don't cover that medication, even though maybe that medication is better for you than this one. I mean, it's just and then not to mention if everyone on that state program is all going to the same places in their, respective regions that they live in, so is everyone else, so like now the queues are super long. And it's state run, not private run. So now you got doctors that don't have as much incentive because they don't have like that capitalist endeavor, like where, everything's, everyone's getting the same pay. Everyone, when the state run things, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work.
No, I agree.
In the United States, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work anyway. Like, any time that the government intervenes too much, they effectively just create waste and inefficiency. And
that's a very good point. I really wanted to make this point too, really quick. Sweden gets brought up quite a lot when there's the talk of like socialist government and stuff like that. Sweden is a capitalist economy.
Yeah, 100%. No, I know. 100%. And it's the same. It's the same.
Most of everything in Sweden is run as exports. Everything from technology to wood and iron and all these sorts of things. And, and they're incentivized by economy. They're not incentivized by their government. The government's not paying for Spotify to like exist,
Yeah. No, I know, they always bring up Norway, Denmark, and Sweden as, and I think Bernie did it as well.
He does, yeah.
And I like Bernie,
dude, but
I would, I'd hold Bernie's head under the fucking path until he stops kicking. The only Democrat that I like is Tulsi. I think though, I think I think that if ever there was a time to break this two-party system in America, the time is now. Because I feel there's enough disenfranchised people on the right, and there's enough disenfranchised people on the left who all have something in common.
Right.
Whereby if
there's a common problem.
Yeah, exactly. If they could reach across the aisle to each other and say, okay, listen, let's move away from the Washington insider establishment types. Let's start our own thing here. I think they would get a lot of support because I think people are starting to see the entrenched political class for what it is, and for what it is a bunch of fucking parasites. I said, they do not do anything productive. And now that they've had a whiff of power, they are becoming so authoritarian. It's fucking insane. I mean, I don't think that it's going to be particularly far away from us, hitting the social credit system that China has. All of that sort of stuff, I think, is on the cards. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
By the way, have you looked into that at all? Do you know much about the Chinese social credit system?
No, I'm not too familiar with them, other than like, I see Z in the news all the time and stuff like that. But I usually read the headlines when it comes to these sorts of things.
Yeah, no, dude, that's some heavy shit. There's quite a lot of documentaries about it on YouTube. There was one, I think it was in the Bloomberg channel, where it was like Shenzhen, City of the Future, and they kind of show how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, you start off with I think the total score is 100, and then everything that you do that's wrong, like say you post stuff online that speaks out against the government. You post a meme about Xi Jinping. I mean, that's probably the death sentence. But you post something that someone doesn't like, to -10, and you actually get like you get a message on your phone, and they say like,
well, they let you know,
Evan, you've lost 10 points. So one guy they had as an example, he had some medical condition where he had to take a train. The train would have taken him an hour and a half to get to where he needed to be for treatment.
Okay.
But he had a couple of weeks prior been drunk in public and had made a noise in his building. So the neighbors complained about him to the authorities, said this guy's being disruptive, and he was drunk. Mm-hmm. He dropped from, I think, 100 to 79, which put him a tier below the folks that are allowed to travel by train.
Okay.
So he had to take a bus, which took 10 hours to get to the place. And then he said, okay, well, since then I've done 40 hours of community service and charity work. I donated 500 won to the government, and I've written all sorts of really positive messages about them on I don't know, whatever social media they use over there. And they've restored my score. I'm on 93 now, and soon I'll be able to I'll be able to take air travel again. It's fucking insane.
Wow. Yeah, that's gnarly. I mean, they're a very, very ancient culture, so I guess it works for them. Like,
dude, but that, like I said, that shit's on the cards. Yeah, no doubt about it.
I know you can get like up to life in prison for like just like having a joint with you in like Japan and in China and stuff like that. Like, they don't fuck around.
No, not at all.
They got 1 billion people though. Like, they gotta like have some stars.
They have this thing as well that I saw and I think this was in Shenzhen. It's like predictive and like a predictive model or predictive analytics, where it's cameras that look at people on the street, and they can look, or the camera can detect by the way that you're moving around,
right,
whether you're intoxicated, whether you're a potential troublemaker, a raft of things. So say
they're
Evan
making those fake masks now. Like,
so Evan's walking down the street, and maybe he's moving a little. He's swaying a little more than usual. To Evan is a troublemaker. Send the cops in to swarm.
I mean, I think that technology is invasive in those sorts of situations. But like, I think that kind of stuff should be like in cars, for instance. Like, if like, some 16-year-old kid like jumps in a car, and a car could like just look at the eyes or something like that. Oh no, you're not driving anywhere, buddy. And just turn the car off. That'd be great technology. And that's the thing, right? Like, a lot of this shit, if you applied it in a positive manner, would be really good. You could find a criminal in a crowd of 10,000 people, but if they're going to use it to like, just write measly drunken public tickets to everybody and stuff like that, well, that's stupid.
Yeah, no, look, I agree with you there. I part of me shudders at the thought, because again, at the end of the day, anything in the hands of the government is a fuck up. They will not do anything properly. Everything will be to their own benefit and to no one else's. But if a system like that was rolled out correctly, it wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. I don't know whether you guys have the same problem in Sweden, but I mean, here in the UK, the amount of fucking litter and graffiti and just pre-COVID, just scumbags just walking the street looking for trouble, yelling and shouting and carrying on. It drives me fucking nuts, man. It gets to a point where even if you're in a nice neighborhood, you just don't want to hang out there anymore, because there's just so many assholes on the street.
I totally, like, Stockholm is actually, I mean, it does exist here, but it's like leaps and bounds better than cities in California. Like, I don't know that you know this, but in San Francisco, you can download this app called Shit Maps.
Oh yeah.
You know of this? Okay.
Yeah,
well, it's a real deal, and it really, like, I mean, the problem with homelessness and just crime and drugs and all this and filth is just rampant in places like LA and San Francisco and anything in those counties too. Like, they're also, you know, affected by this. I mean, it's on the verge of, like, it's sad and disgusting at the same time.
I was in San Francisco probably about a year ago.
Okay.
I was in Santa Clara for work for a week, and then I was in San Francisco for the day. One of the folks who worked for me took me to lunch there, and yeah, I saw a couple of the homeless folks on the street. It's grim shit, dude. It's
grim.
It's like fucking Walking Dead. I mean, because the thing is, we got homeless people, yeah, but these are people that are like swaying around in the street, yelling stuff at you, you know, staring at you with these bug eyes, like they're going to start eating your face.
I mean, most people don't see this. I mean, and I'll give a great example in just a second, but like a couple friends and I, we went and saw this band called The Residents at this place called The Chapel. It's near the Mission District in San Francisco. And on our way there, there's like a bridge, an overpass that you walk underneath. And I mean, there's like the tent city, of course, that's not really surprising, but it was shocking just to see like the brazenness of people shooting up drugs. I mean, there was a fellow laying on his back, like just finding his vein in his neck and shooting up, you know, and not just him, but like the whole strip of it was. And I mean, and I'm not saying anything bad about them. I have my own demons too. I dealt with that kind of stuff as well. Not that bad. And but the fact that there's no help for these people, or there's like no like way to like, you know, clean up this mess. And so like there was this icon, I wish I had a camera. There's this iconic, like it would have spoke like volumes like if I had taken this picture, but it was a guy laying on his back, like trying to trace his neck to find the vein so he could shoot up. And there was his mom and her daughter holding hands, like on the corner, waiting for the light to change so they could cross the street. Yeah. And it was in the same area. Like, I mean, like within like a stone's throw, like, you know, and like, to me, like that is, you know, that is something that people need to see more of in a way, like, so they can realize how fucking insane this is. I took my girlfriend to the USA before I moved out here. And San Francisco was one of these places that she wanted to see so bad because like she'd seen it in movies her whole life. And she had like this, you know, she had so much excitement when we were driving to San Francisco. By the time we left that night, she was depressed and sad because she'd like never seen like that much like filth and like people that are just struggling and like, you know, hurting and stuff like that. I mean, there's these like check cashing places that people go to, like, because they don't have bank accounts, they'll go to these check cashing places to turn their ID, their check, get their money. And right outside of these places are drug dealers, and they're just standing there. And they're the guy, you know, they're a drug dealer. They got their hands in their pockets, big jackets. They, you know what I mean? They're just waiting for people to come out just to sell them some shit. And ain't nobody doing nothing about it. And I know about that. You don't think the police know about that? Like, come on, man. Like, give me a break. The cops don't know that these guys are selling drugs right outside. Like, you know, it's just, but you don't even see police.
I'm interested to see what's going to happen in the last stop on the Shitbird Express now, Portland, because they've
legalized everything.
Yeah.
Well,
so
that's
I mean,
a smoke screen too. Like that's another way to get people, in my opinion. That's just another way to have people be more, not pacified, because they can be pacified without it being legal, but distracted. You know, it'll buy some time, you know, like it'll buy some time for their, you know, corrupt government to keep on giving them the shit stick while they're like preoccupied with like, oh, let's go get heroin down at the CVS, you know, it'll be fun. It's a weekend. Let's do it. Yeah. It's legal now. Woo.
Is actually, speaking of Portland, I asked this of my friend last night, and I never looked into it. Is the Portland Chaz still a thing? Because you know,
I've only been to Portland a few times in my life, so I couldn't tell you much about the
no, it's so I spoke to our mutual friend Mike before the new year, or like one of our last episodes of last year, and he was saying Portland is a complete dump.
I mean,
he said he hates going there.
It was I played a show there one time, and it was, you know, as a young man, it was a cool city because it's a very colorful city. I mean, like we like went down there and there's like just, you know, it's just a crazy place. You know, it's like all the inhabitants of Woodstock went to Portland and had kids, and like, and it just like continued it or something. Like, I mean, it's a really crazy place. It's a really crazy town. But so, I mean, is that a great like way like to like have a city? I don't know. Like, but it's an interesting place for sure.
So I'm looking now. So you know that they had Chaz 2 that started over there. I'm gonna share my screen so you can see
Yeah,
what I'm
share
looking
with me.
Hold on. All right, so there we go. So there's Chaz 2.
Okay.
And I don't know whether it still exists or not. The last or the most recent articles are like from the 15th of December, but yeah, they had they apparently had like a stockpile of firearms there. You know, they said if the police try and take this down, they're going to they're going to fight back. Blah blah blah. But just look at that fucking mess. Who would want to live around any of that shit?
Well, they have these like strange like squatters laws and certain places in the cities too, like in certain cities in the United States where, the government protects, that sort of stuff as well. Like to a certain extent. When I was younger, I worked I worked for a company that cleaned out repossessed homes from people.
Yeah.
So we didn't do the actual repossessions ourselves. We were just like the cleanup crews that maintained the properties or whatever. We had to do this eviction in Washington D.C. one time, and it was during the Occupy D.C. movement, and it was rough. I mean, like, because there was so much like hostility like between the police officers and like the punk kids and squatter kids that were all there and stuff like that. The place was like absolutely destroyed, but in DC, at least at the time, they cannot legally like turn off like the water and power if there is like any known inhabitants in like an establishment. So regardless of the fact that they were actually paying anything, they were still keeping it like cohabitable, which I mean I understand why they're doing that, but there's a lot of people that were actually taking advantage of this situation is more my point, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I like that picture that you just showed too. I mean, that could be one of those things. I don't know.
Yeah. So it says, yeah, Portland police officers try to shut down. This is not called the Raz. It's called the Chaz. It's called the Raz. Portland police officers try to shut down the Raz early on, but they were attacked and chased away. Their police cruisers were smashed up. They didn't return. Those present at the barricade should leave it behind. Put down your weapons and allow the neighborhood to return to peace and order. Portland Police Chief Chuck Lovell asked the militants who ignored his polite requests. I mean, what the fuck do they think? If you have an imbecile like Ted Wheeler at the helm of a city, it's not like the militants are going to go away. And the worst thing is, like the person who ran against him in this last election as mayor of mayor of Portland, she has on her Twitter bio a list of her heroes: Stalin, Marx, Lenin. It's like, holy shit.
Just don't even hide that stuff anymore now. Like you just like blazingly like flaunt it around, I guess.
Well, so here's one thing that I think is not necessarily out of the realms of possibility anymore. If 2021 is going to be even more crazy than 2020, parts of the US seceding. There's already a couple of people that have pretty much said it in all but name now. Imagine if Texas and Florida decide, all right, we've had enough of this shit. We're putting up borders. We'll get South Dakota, and who else can join them? South Dakota, maybe Nevada.
Nevada can definitely do it.
A couple of other spots.
I'll tell you the thing about Nevada. Early on, like before when the legalization of marijuana was a hot topic, and there was a few states that were doing it. Nevada was one of the states that said that they were on board with legalization of marijuana. And one of the threats the government did during this time was they said that they would pull federal funding from your state if you did decide to legalize marijuana. And like Nevada pretty much just laughed because they're like, we make so much money with Las Vegas just by itself. Like we don't need the federal government. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been in Vegas, but it's literally a city in the middle of the desert. And they have running water and trees and like, I mean, it's in the middle of nowhere. Drive to Las Vegas from California. You go to the Mojave Desert, and all of a sudden there's like this metropolis. I mean, they don't need the federal government like supporting.
Well, the thing is, so Texas is responsible for the third. I think it's the second or third most of wealth in America. And that's probably going to be increasing because so many businesses are moving down there now. A lot of the financial institutions are fucking off out of New York and they're moving to Florida. Goldman, for example, has just moved to Florida. So if you have Florida and Texas, you've got a seaway through Florida.
Right.
Texas, you got money. You got tons of natural resources between the two of them. And then, like I said, all you need are a couple of other smaller states to join.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I don't know. I can't fathom that happening, but I wouldn't put it outside of the realm of possibilities, though.
I mean, it gets to a point where you look at it and you go, there's these two kind of substrands of the populace,
right,
who just don't want to live together anymore. They don't have anything in common. They don't share a culture. They don't share a view on life. They don't share anything. Maybe it's best they be separated.
Yeah, and I mean,
you wouldn't stay in a marriage if you epitomize both people as a person. Let's quantify. Or I don't know if quantify is the right word, but let's quantify it and say, on one side you've got Trump, on the other side you've got Nancy Pelosi. If those two people were married to each other, do you think that a marriage counselor would go and say, I think we've got things to work with.
We can work this out, right? Don't worry.
What you really need is to think back to how you felt when you first fell in love.
No, highly unlikely. No. And Texas would be a great place to do it. I mean, Texas is huge, man. I've had the pleasure of being in Texas a few times and driven through it like maybe 7 or 8 times, and it is immense. It is just, you can't even fathom how big this fucking state is. It's huge. I mean, when you can buy land out there, you can buy they don't just sell you 1 acre. You can buy 800 acres, and you're not even encroaching on anybody else. It's pretty ridiculous.
Dude, I've never been, but it is so high up on my list of places to go. Because for one, I fucking love Texas barbecue, and when I say I love it, I don't mean I like eating it. I am fucking obsessed with it. So
the whole style and everything.
Yeah. I spend, I'd say, 50% of my YouTube viewing time is watching barbecue channels.
Yeah,
I spend most of my free time smoking or barbecuing. So just that is great. I just love the whole lifestyle there. Everything that I see about the place just looks awesome to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's really rad, and you wouldn't believe. It's really another very telling thing too is when you start off on the coast of the United States, anywhere in California, anywhere on the East Coast, as you move towards the center of the United States, gas prices get substantially cheaper. And so you start off in California, it's $5 a gallon. By the time you get to Texas, it's $2.15 a gallon, which is a huge difference.
Dude, so over here, they're going to make it they basically want to try and get rid of cars altogether by the looks of things, because one of the things they're talking about now is a progressive tax on anybody that owns a petrol or diesel
fuel
car. So by 2030, apparently there's no more of those.
When they do that in California too? I think California said that they're trying to do that also.
Yeah, possibly. So the other thing they want to do is they want to do a per mile road tax. So they're talking about figures around the 75 pence to £1.50 per mile tax, which for someone like me, who I drive about 1,000 miles every month, but a big chunk of that, I would say at least 90% of that, is driving back and forth to go pick up my daughter.
Right.
But you're talking about, if this bullshit actually goes through, it would literally cost me about £800 a month in tax to see my daughter.
What do? They're gonna ask you to do an odometer report every month?
Fuck knows. They one of the things that they're doing is they're putting up all these digital
cameras.
It's digital cameras, but what they're calling it is the digital motorways of the future, which is basically just cameras to try and track you for speed and track you for more tax.
Not paying a toll or something like that.
Nothing better is the roads won't be better. There's not going to be any less fucking traffic jams or anything.
Right.
But that's what they're seriously talking about.
I would say that. I mean, that would be the thing that I would argue. Be okay, well, if you're gonna give me a per mile tax, are these roads? I don't want to ever drive over a pothole ever again.
Yes.
Never again.
I've said this many times. It's again, what people don't seem to understand when it comes to taxis, that's your money. The public coffer is literally, by definition, money that you and I pay into. Or sorry, a pot of money that you and I pay into,
right.
Because there are certain things that, in order for us to be economically productive elsewhere, we don't have time to do. We don't have the time to police our streets. We don't have the time to, be the fire brigade. We don't have the time to clean up the trash.
Right.
So if we pay into it and we're asked to pay more, I want to see what I'm getting for my money. Right. And what I'm getting for my money is fucking more lockdowns, more bullshit. I don't see anybody in public office taking a pay cut during this time. I took a 25% pay cut. Since I've been on 25% pay cut since April.
Wow.
So, and I mean, I don't live in squalor, but still, it's my fucking money that I'm having to that I'm having to take a hit on. But the government doesn't have to take a hit on anything. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, don't fuck with my money. Don't fuck with your money. Like, just absolutely not. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Anyway, let's change the subject for a second and
sure.
talk about black metal. So I listened to the EP before you sent it to me. I mean, I got a couple of issues with it. Number one, it's satanic. Number two, it's black metal, which is just a bunch of screaming racket. No, dude, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I think it's a big step up from the previous one, which I really like too. I think the production is very, very good. And I was going to ask you, I mean, I would assume you recorded this at home, right?
Well, I recorded at my buddy's home, but yes, it was still a home recording. Yeah.
Dude, it does not sound like a home recording
so,
at all.
I mean, I got very blessed on the very first one, the Quell EP. That one was done by a good friend of mine out in California, my buddy Michael Sigler. And he and I, like, we worked together on that. It was really him just doing a favor for me. And he was at the time still like getting his home studio kind of set up and stuff. So you can hear more of the rawness and stuff like that in that first EP. This second one came about after moving here to Sweden, and a buddy of mine out here, my buddy Patrick Stugbard, he actually works for a studio here in Stockholm. So he has, some real good knowledge. And I mean, without him, I have to really like be very like grateful and thankful towards him, because he helped with all the recording on that. He helped with all like the editing. I mean, there was, whenever you do any recording, there was a real raw approach taken for this. So like every vocal track is just like a single take, with like going back and doing the dubs and maybe fixing a word here or there. And it was same with the guitar tracks and everything else. But he was really like implemental and like coming up with we just worked really well together. Yeah. And he even like helped out with like certain ideas too, like like maybe we should have this there and stuff like that, because he just really understood what he did. So I mean, and then the mix and mastering of all that actually did get sent back to my buddy Mike again. And so it was a collaboration between those two on the editing side and stuff like that. And I mean, I'm really happy with the outcome also. I think it just sounds so much better. And, I was proud of the old stuff, but if I could go back and do the production with this production, I mean, I think it would be, so much better just with the production alone,
Well, I mean, that's the thing to me. It's incredible how in this day and age you can produce something essentially from home that sounds so polished. Because I mean, I listened to Incorporeal last night. I played it to a friend of mine, and I was listening to it on his hi-fi. His hi-fi is an stupid amount of money, and it is the like top notch of the top notch components. It sounded sensational on that, and I was listening to it on really good headphones this morning. It sounded fantastic on that too. And those are revealing audio sources that normally show up flaws in recordings 100%. Quite quickly. So it sounded really, really good. I would say for me, you're at your, and I mean this in a very complimentary way. I feel like of the 6 tracks, you're at your absolute strongest on Incorporeal.
Yeah.
I think that's like where everything just, that you listen to bands and then just there's that moment where everything just comes together, and it's like all of the strengths of that musician or that group of musicians, just all clicks all at once. And on that track,
the stars aligned.
Yes, I feel like the riffing is just phenomenal. I love that little touch of the church bells. I think that's incredible. I think your vocals sound sensational. The timing and the rhythm in your vocals sound awesome. Then you kind of build up to that clean singing crescendo towards the end, which is just magic. It's absolutely fantastic. And my friend as well is a connoisseur of the black arts, and he was very impressed with it too.
Oh, well,
and he's very, very quick to say if something sucks. So
that's fantastic.
I can tell you there's more than a few folks that have really responded to that tune in particular. So well done.
Well, that's great, especially because it's the first track on the album. So like that'll hopefully it'll hook the listener and get them in more. No, I really appreciate that. I do, and I do agree with you. I think for me also, that's one of the favorite tracks on it. That and the final track, that one as well is like those two were just, when I was writing them in particular, like, I was just really happy with how everything was kind of coming together. And for me, when I was actually just starting off playing them on guitar, they were the ones that kind of came maybe the most naturally. That and like the Abyssal Thirst, which is the second track, that one actually came pretty naturally too. But I will say that there was an intention with like every track on this one, just like the last one, to sort of like try and do a little bit of different stuff in every song, just to have it more like versatile. But I think, I would agree with you. I think with Incorporeal, I think everything just comes together in the way that perhaps I'll probably just continue on in the future a little bit. Like it just, it had the right amount of everything, in my opinion, like the right amount of clean singing, the right amount of like, added sound effects with, like with the church bells. And, I think everything has a poppy kind of a poppy like aspect to it in a black metal sense, where like, I think it's songwriting in a good way, structurally.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
The others that stand out to me, track 4, Erebos, I think is excellent. And then DWCTA, the last track that you mentioned, I think that's really good as well. It's got a, not overtly so, but there's an element of progressiveness to it. Erebos is just a hard song, and particularly the kind of second half of the track. And then like I said, the thing with Incorporeal as well, that main riff, when after you kind of you sort of build it up with you doing the vocals, and then the song properly kicks in when the drums speed up. That main riff just sounds fucking nasty, and it's
cold, right? Like it's
exactly. And I love that sort of riff. We went through probably about 45 bands on Black Metal Promotion last night, and I picked out 1 or 2 gems. But there's so much, like black metal to me has just evolved into these levels now, where there's just certain bands that are on a level when it comes to songwriting that just make a lot of what might have passed for good in 1996 or even 2006. It just sounds like a bunch of pedestrian wank nowadays.
It does.
And that's because of folks like Utkana and Selbst and Nas from Ecclese. This dude operates on a fucking plane that most of us,
the Adraza guys as well, and like it's like I think one of like the reasons why I gravitate towards black metal so much is I find it as the most, and I think other people have said this as well on your podcast, like it's the most expressive form of metal, where, well, I shouldn't say most expressive, but it's definitely the most like accepted when it comes to expressiveness. Like no one these days like really questions like if a band like just does some really strange black metal album, but if you got a really weird Cannibal Corpse album, I don't know how people would feel about it. I think it'd be more polarizing. Like I think, musicians would definitely be into it, but I think fans would be like, oh, Cannibal Corpse just needs to keep on doing Cannibal Corpse, but black metal, like, you can see how it's evolved from like the early days into now, and what's considered black metal, like, I don't know. I say that I'm a black metal artist, but I don't know that I'm necessarily a black metal artist, because it's not like traditional cult, black metal by any means. But then you look, nowadays, like bands like Dissection are considered black metal. But if you listen to Dissection, it's not really a black metal band, is it? It's more of a prog rock kind of like heavy metal band. They have more, intricacies to them than like, say like Mayhem does or something like that. Or early Mayhem. But now, like, even Mayhem, you look at Mayhem and like how they've like transitioned into like more like a Deathspell Omega type of band. Whereas before they were definitely like, just 4 to the floor, like, just blasting like.
Well, they could barely play their instruments. If you watch or if you listen to any of the older stuff, the older demos and things like that, the musicianship is atrocious.
It's god awful, yeah.
There's still a magic to it, and it's one of my favorite bands, but the musicianship sucks.
Right.
But the the band progresses, and what I've always really loved about Mayhem is there's a bravery in what they've done. And maybe not even a bravery. I just don't think they give a fuck. But, I love the fact that they did something totally different on Ordo Ad Chaos. I remember listening to Ordo Ad Chaos the first time, and everyone had said, oh, this sucks. The album is rubbish. and I was just blown away by it. I couldn't stop
me
listening
too,
to it
me
for
too.
months.
And when I heard Anti, like I was like just blown away. Like
Yeah,
that track in particular. Like I was the same way. I bought the album, and it was like a lot to digest when I first got it, and I was just sort of like, I mean, everything like led up to that one track. And when I heard that one track, and like, I mean, I don't know what it was, but just everything about that track that just blew me away. It was so good.
I'm just familiarizing myself with the song titles again. Is it? Oh no, my favorite track on the album is Illuminate. There's like
that's a good one too.
There's like this incredible melodic part at the end of the song, and the whole song kind of builds up to that point, and it's just phenomenal. But and then they did Esoteric Warfare, which again got a lot of stick, but I thought it was magnificent.
Right.
And then they do Demon, which is a quite a clear kind of throwback to De Mysteriis Dom Satanas, and they did a phenomenal job with it. They didn't repeat themselves. They kind of gave enough of a tip of the hat to the past, but they didn't repeat themselves. They made a record that was fucking mean from start to finish, and just showcased them all in the best possible light. And, both as technical musicians and also as songwriters.
So I'm guessing you're an Attila fan then. Like Attila's your man.
Very much so, mate.
Yeah,
I am. So I this year it's going to be episode 100 of Into the Necrosphere, and he is for sure on the short list of guys I want to have on for that episode.
Yeah, I hope you can.
Oh, dude, it would be awesome. I think hopefully I scored enough cred with Ghoul when I had him on. That I could ask for a favor.
I mean, that's got to be the closest direct line you got, anyway. So.
I was about to say, I think that's the best way. If I could get him on, like my short list for guests for episode 100 would be Attila from Mayhem, who incidentally I think is the best black metal vocalist of all time. I don't think there's anyone that comes close.
He's definitely one of my favorites as well. He's so interesting as a man and a vocalist. Yeah,
I agree. I think what he does is incredible. You know that on Marlum, is it? Yeah, the song is just called Marlum on Demon track 4. That clean singing, that really operatic clean singing bit that he's done, and anybody who watched the Ghoul interview would remember him saying
this.
I'm
pretty sure. I need to refamiliar myself with that.
That shit was improvised in the studio.
Oh, was it?
So yeah, so it was literally like they were saying, okay, try something a bit different with your voice here, and all of a sudden he fucking belts out this weird like operatic thing that sounds so twisted and so insane, but just so perfectly fitting to that track.
Yeah, he's just a character, man. I just love the hell out of that guy.
Yeah, no, I love him too.
Stuff he does, so cool. It's so cool. Yeah.
But so he's definitely on the short list. Mortus from Marduk, I would love to speak to.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
Shane Embry, I would love to talk to as well, but I don't think that's going to happen. There's this absolute. I don't care about running the guy down publicly, but there's a fucking turd stain called Adam the Rat that runs a place called the Noise Cartel, and they do all the press for Napalm Death. So normally, like I've said before, I'll normally reach out to people directly because I try and ignore the press agents and the record labels and stuff. I don't want to be beholden to anybody, so I want to just have people on who want to be on.
Yeah.
I've tried desperately to get hold of Shane directly and through the Noise Cartel, and it's fucking impossible. So I think I'm just going to park that ambition.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea too, because I mean, like if you get into the podcast circuit stuff, then you're beholden to like it has to be like a 30-minute interview, and then
fuck that. No,
fuck that. You can't have a real conversation with the person.
No, and I've said it for a while now, and it has always been my ambition. I don't have a lot of ambitions with a podcast. I've got a job. I don't need to make money out of it.
Right.
So my ambition has always been, I just want to get enough of a reputation and big enough to where I no longer have to struggle for guests. I have enough people that when I reach out to them, they know who I am, and they're interested in coming on, and they embrace the format of, it's basically just two people talking. Like the best compliment that I got for the podcast was a guy who I grew up with. And I'd kind of lost contact with him for probably about easily the better part of 15 years. He said, listening to the podcast takes me back to sitting in your room, listening to music, talking shit. That's
that's exactly what I love too. I mean, I have so many great memories, like as a child, like, or as a teenager, just having like the CD player playing and having a couple friends. And that's what we did. Like one guy would bring over something to listen to and I'd have something, and we sit around, we'd listen to it, we talk bullshit, and then that's real. I think that's the the real nice thing about podcasts when they're done right is that you get that sort of nostalgic feeling that you get when you're hanging out with your best friends and stuff like that. It's more relatable, and I don't know. I mean, who wants to just hear like, were you happy with the new albums? Like, what do you think about? I mean, all this like bullshit you can hear a million times. Like,
So this is one of the things that gave me the idea for it. I remember sitting at press days when I was writing for Metal Rules, and you would sit and listen to what what the folks on other websites are doing, and everything was just the most placating, fucking arse-licking bullshit you've ever heard in your life, and all of it is so unbelievably cliched. It's like, so what were your influences when you were writing the songs for this album? Ha ha. And then, this was during the time of the Iraq War, so there would always be a question about Bush and what are your views on the Iraq War? It is terrible, isn't it? And then it goes on like that, and I was like,
wonder if these people are even fans of music, because like, as a fan of music, I mean, the amount of time that I've spent researching artists when I was younger, like how much, like, I would just die to have an interview where like you would find something like, about the person themselves. That's the most important thing. I mean, you can find a million from Kerrang, Metal Hammer, Metal Injection, Metal Sucks, all that stuff with this. It's almost exactly the same interview.
There's the same sound bites.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree with you.
Yeah. I mean, that's what makes music. I mean, especially for young people, I don't know if I feel exactly the same way, but when I was younger, for sure, like when you were like looking at people and these album covers and the album art and stuff like that, like it was just so intriguing. And you wanted to just know everything about them and like the world they come from and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know why interviewers just ask these, like you said, like these placid questions. Like,
I know what you mean. It's the thing is, in this scene, there's a huge number of I mean, this is music that could only be made by folks with relatively extreme personalities. There's no doubt about that. So, in order to be able to do that, you would assume that there's a lot of people with very interesting personalities, and I felt like there was not anywhere where that was showcased. I don't want to pry into people's private lives and stuff if they don't want to talk about things like that. But
of course not,
what I would like is to have like the approach I always take is it's two people meet up in a bar and they just start talking, and that's kind of what I want to. What I want to put out as an episode. The only times I've ever had bad episodes, there's one episode that I won't name that I personally think is fucking shit, and I would delete if I weren't so obsessive compulsive about the numerology. But it's because I'd prepared for.
Oh, so you actually have it posted?
No, it was a person I spoke to, and it was like, I mean, it was like fucking getting blood from stone. But the part of the reason is I did the interviewer thing, and I had a list of questions prepared, and I started going through the questions, and just as I was going through this, it was like, oh God, this is awful. And
I think that's another thing too. One of the benefits to not having that list is that once you do engage someone in conversation, like you're going to get that person letting their guard down a little bit.
Yeah.
They'll be more willing to talk to you about things that you don't have to pry into their personal history if you've, establish some sort of like, camaraderie between the person that you're talking to, in my opinion.
No, I agree with you. And
people want to talk. People want to like tell you everything about them. That's just human nature.
Again, you're very right. But that's kind of what I go for. And I've used the analogy before. It's like climbing a hill, and I always feel like I get to that point in the conversation, and I can normally sense it's happening about. In a good interview, in one I know is going to be really, really good, it happens about 10 minutes in.
Right.
Generally speaking, it's about 15 minutes in. You can almost feel that person just relaxing a little bit, and then they start letting more stuff out. If I think about the best ones, my personal favorite ones ever, aside from this one, of course.
Oh, of course.
Brock from Panzerfaust. I mean, that was I just hit it off with him.
Yeah, man. I was blown away. He's a very smart man. Like I was blown away by that podcast. That was
dude. Just as an aside, because I laughed at it. So Charlie Fell from Cobalt and Lord Mantis, we're friends on Facebook, and he posted this very impassioned rant about the government doesn't give a fuck about you. Left and right need to wake up.
Okay.
One thing that he posted in the comments that I fucking died laughing. Someone asked him about Antifa. And he was like, yeah, I don't like Antifa because basically they're a bunch of trust fund kids who think that if you don't have 7 piercings in your penis, you're a racist.
Oh, Jesus.
Which I thought was fucking hysterical.
That's
But anyway, yeah, Brock was awesome. Ghoul from Mayhem, I was so happy because I was so nervous about talking to him.
Yeah.
And then it just, as soon as we started talking, it just worked. A couple of other ones that I was really happy with. Mike from Tombs, I really hit it off with.
Mike's great. Mike's great.
Top
I actually, I mean, I've told you this before, but he's the reason why I even know about you. I mean, like he, having you on his Metal Matters podcast. And stuff, talking about Gorgoroth. Like,
well, the episode with him I enjoyed most. We actually did for one of his shows. I think it was on Everything Went Black. We did an analysis of There Will Be Blood, which is my favorite movie of all
I've heard that one
far,
too.
which I thoroughly enjoyed that episode. And I think the episode itself came out really, really well. I was almost jealous of it being on his podcast. He's a very sweet guy. He's quite an intense dude, but yeah, he's a sweet guy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to put him on blast like he does this like on a regular. But like, you know, I messaged him when this new stuff was coming out, and he took a listen to it. And he didn't have to do this, but he actually put a plug on his Everything Went Black podcast.
Yeah, I heard that.
And I mean, you know, I didn't ask him to do it. I didn't ask him anything. I asked him if he would be willing to listen to it. You know, we've talked a little bit on his Instagram before, not much. But yeah, I mean, you know, he doesn't have to do stuff like that. So, I mean, that was I had a good, genuine, like, man feeling from that, you know, exchange. Like, you know, somebody who is a real person, I guess, you know. And when I listen to his podcast as much as I do, and like the Necromantics and stuff like that, he's a nice guy. Don't want to get a rant on Mike Hill. Hey, shout out to Mike Hill. Go listen to Tunes.
Well, he'll definitely be on.
Guys, great album.
He'll definitely be on again this year.
Oh, good.
Probably sooner rather than later. By the way, just and it's probably underlines how much of a compliment it was that he gave you a shout out. The new Tombs album is fucking brilliant.
Fantastic.
Just a best work that he's ever done. I know he's not a fan of the Grand Annihilation. I really was, but I can tell. Well, I guess I can kind of get why he didn't like the Grand Annihilation if this has sort of been his vision for Tombs for the last couple of years, because it's phenomenal. It's absolutely fucking phenomenal.
And it's like kind of like, well, you know, in a way, what I was saying earlier about the Quell stuff too is like, I feel like his album is newest album is showcasing a lot of different styles on all the different songs. I agree. You know, I totally agree. You know, you have like what's the second one? Bone something.
Bone Furnace.
Yeah, I mean that just fucking annihilates. But then you get to something like The Hunger, you know, with Dwid Hellion from Integrity on it.
But
he sounds like fucking like Motorhead. Like
you know who he reminds me of? I thought for a little while I was convinced that was Matt Pike from Eye on Fire.
Okay, yeah.
He sounds exactly like him. I was like, how the fuck did Mike swing that?
And then there's like I can't remember the last one. It's Plague something. Not Plague Diaries. That's his.
Plague Diaries is the
but it's Plague
podcast series.
It's the very last song on the track, Plague something, and that also it starts off with the acoustic guitar. And it's like
it's like called Plague Years.
Plague Years, fucking fantastic. Oh, I love that too. I mean, the whole album though, it was great. Yeah, I agree with you in what you said. Like it's like I think it's the culmination of all of his work, 100%.
No, I as I said, he's a. I mean, we've dedicated the last 5 minutes to his greatness.
Like a shout out for this. No, he deserves it. He deserves it.
He's a very cool guy. But yeah, I think the original thread of the conversation was, you know, people on the show and, you know, what makes a good conversation, what doesn't. But yeah, my ambition with the podcast is very much I don't care about money. I'm not interested in sponsors. I want people who want to be on the show, and I'm going to get to a point where it's more easy for me to find those people. Because I mean, right now it's like fucking, you know, doing a sales job. You know, every single, people, you know, I try and have about 3-4 in the pipeline, and every single week it's like, you know, sending out messages and, you know, seeing who bites and who doesn't. I've got a few folks who've expressed interest recently who are a little higher in profile, but then at the same time, like the Tony Campos interview, for example, I said it on the show. I like Tony very much, and I hold by what I said about the first Static X album. It's brilliant. Yeah. I shouldn't have put him on the podcast, and I wouldn't.
I think you did, because when you did his episode, there was like other 4 or 5 other podcasts that also had him on at the same amount of time, within a week of each other. So I imagine he was probably doing that circuit run. So he was probably in interview mode. He wasn't in like, being a personable. I mean, it was very obvious that all he wanted to talk about was the Regeneration X thing, and like, it was difficult pulling teeth. Yeah. Can you excuse me 1 second? I need to go to the bathroom really quick.
Yeah, no problem, dude.
Oh, perfect. Be right back.
All right.
Oh boy, thank you for that. I've been holding that for like 20 minutes, I think.
Don't worry.
The conversation got too good. I didn't want to cut it in the middle of it and be like,
dude,
that thought.
I purposely today avoided this new green supplement that I've been taking.
Okay.
I don't think my body.
Flowing.
Oh my God, dude. So yesterday, it's about an hour and a half's drive to my friend. I had it right before I left, and about an hour in, I'm like, my stomach is just going like.
Oh no, that's not a good sound.
Oh my God, there's a fucking traffic jam now. It's a disaster.
Good Lord, that's when you just run out in the woods. Don't even fucking care,
bro. But this is the thing about this lockdown, man. More years have been taken off my life by the lockdown than whatever would have been taken off if we'd been been allowed to kind of roam free in the public. Because
in what way?
I put on weight.
Wow.
They keep on disrupting the training. So I was training fucking hard for 5 days a week. For a very big chunk of my life, and this year that's been taken away because invariably you have probably 2-3 months where the gym is open and then it's shut again, and it's just like I just can't get things on an even keel. I mean, probably the best thing that I've done is to move out here into the countride, because at least here I can.
Are you more motivated to do it at the gym than at home?
I can at least walk around here a bit, and I've now bought a pair of resistance bands as well, a set of resistance bands, so I can go do some stuff with that. But I do need the gym for motivation. I must admit, I had weights at home when I lived in London, and it's shit. I mean, you just don't get the same quality of workout. You don't feel the same. And the thing is, like, for me, when I don't work out, I start feeling cranky. I get these fucking tension headaches in the back of my head all the time. I just feel like 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag. So
no, I hear you.
It's the sooner this garbage is behind me, the better.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, one of the things in particular also is like just that desire that I have to like travel. I love traveling. I mean, that's the whole reason why I'm out here in Europe. And know like the people that I know. It's like I really enjoy traveling, and right now it just feels like it just doesn't seem like a good idea, even though I'm totally okay with it. I don't even know it would be a fun experience to go anywhere right now,
Well, so a very good friend of mine is treating myself and Paige to a trip to Dubai with him and his wife.
Oh, nice.
Well, this is the thing. So towards the end of January, so he's paying for the flights and the hotel extremely generously. And the idea is that he and I are going to go into the desert and go chase around in Lamborghinis.
Okay.
But the problem is now you don't know whether with mutant COVID we're going to be allowed to fly.
I don't know. I mean, that's a different world altogether, different culture, different government. I don't know how they're going to handle it. Yeah. I imagine if you go say to somebody that like, hey, we're here to drive the Lamborghinis, they're probably going to let you do it.
Well, I know like, if you show that, apparently the options are if you get to the airport, you can have a COVID test, and as long as it's a negative,
right.
You're allowed through. But like I said, with mutant COVID, I don't know whether they're going to just block flights from the UK altogether.
Yeah, I have no idea. I have several friends down in Italy, metal guys as well. In fact, one of the guys, he did the vocals on the fifth track, The Grey Death. And he's a one-man metal guy also, Fennis Nera. His real name's Luca. But he lives in Parma, and he's got a beautiful place. He's a beautiful guy. And I just love hanging out with him and stuff like that. And we want to get together, but it's so up in the air right now because I'm not a citizen of Sweden. I'm a resident of Sweden. So I mean, I have my personal number here. I have a job here and all these things. I'm pretty sure they would let me back in, but you just never know from day to day. If I was to go down to Italy and all of a sudden Sweden hankers down on the rules, only citizens allowed back into Sweden or something like that, and then I'm stuck in fucking Italy.
Well, that's something I need to consider as well, because I've been a resident of the UK now for the last 16 years. I've qualified for a passport ages ago, but I'm too much of a cheapskate to pay the £1,600 to get it, because I always look at it and go, £1,600 on a passport that I don't really need, because
or a new grill.
No. So the whole process is of a year when you become when you move from resident to citizen. So your residency test is the stupid test where you have to write to say that you basically understand enough about English culture to live here. And amongst the gems that you learn in the manual they give you is, on Christmas Day, some people believe that an old man with a large gray beard climbs down. I mean, I'm literally paraphrasing.
Okay.
Climbs down a chimney and gives the children presents. His name is Santa Claus. And then it took me, so I wrote the test. It took me 2 minutes to finish it. There's people there that are fucking sweating. They're like making notes. Like, I don't know whether I'm going to get through this. Anyway, so I did that way back in like 2004. I got my indefinite leave to remain, but like I said, it's every time I look at it, it's like £1,600 having to deal with the bureaucracy and queuing, and then you have to go to the citizenship ceremony. And apparently, they tell you how lucky you are to be here, and then at the end of it, you have to stand to attention and sing "God Save the Queen" to a photo of the Queen.
Wow. Okay.
Which to me is just fucking insane.
Yeah, I understand it though, man. I mean, it's the same reason why I don't have my driver's license out here right now. My driver's license was good for 1 year, and then after that, it's no good anymore. So you have to like go through the entire process of getting your driver's license. And I mean, I've been driving my entire life. Like it's been a long time.
Do you have to retake the test?
Everything, yeah. I have to retake the test and learn like all their signs and everything's in Swedish as well, which is it's doable, but it's difficult. And then it's 10,000 crowns, which is the $1,000 for the it's pretty expensive. And then I think there's even more fees on top of that as well. And I'm just not financially, I'm not in a place to do it right now.
And you have to drive a Volvo. By
or what's the other one? What's Audi? An Audi. But
I think most Volvos, to me, the way they look is anybody who pays money for a new one, as they're handing over their credit card or they're handing over the check, they're handing over their testicles in a box as well. It is the most hideously uninspiring piece of crap I've ever seen in my life.
It's good for soccer moms, like or football moms, I guess, in the UK. But like mothers that drive their kids to sporting events, like they're perfect cars for that. But they're not even Swedish run anymore either. They sold their company to China, I believe. I think China.
Really? Is Volvo owned by China?
I'm pretty sure. I think Volvo sold out also.
Let's have a gander of that.
Double check that.
Today, Volvo is one of the most well-known and respected car brands in the world, with sales in about 100 countries. You're absolutely right. Volvo Car Group is owned by Zhejiang Geely Holding of China. Very interesting. And so the Volvo cars formed part of the Swedish Volvo Group until 1999, where the company was bought by Ford Motor Company. Shit. Yeah. One thing that I saw that I thought was nuts the other day is if you look at the market cap of all of the major motor manufacturers in the world, like Daimler, Chrysler, BMW, Audi, they are all combined less than Tesla.
Oh yeah, no, that's crazy too. Yeah.
Which is mental. I do, however, I tip my hat to Elon Musk because I think he's fucking funny, and I'm
a fan of him actually. I like him. I think he's one of those, kind of. No, he's not a rock star, he's like he's a real intellectual, and he's interested in and actually he's got crazy ideas, but he's interested in, making.
He's also not afraid to thumb his nose at authority, which I
mean, it's very telling of a man who names his company after Nikola Tesla, what the guy is into, right? I mean, he's the what do you call that? Like not the anti, but he's the punk rock version of an entrepreneur
he's definitely not Jeff Bezos.
No, he's definitely not.
Bezos is like the literally the embodiment of when they talk about the elites and the Bilderberg group. He's like if Alex Jones were a superhero, then Jeff Bezos would be like the supervillain in the comic book.
I was actually I was talking shit for a second. I was his wife divorced him, and she became something like the third richest person in the world, most rich woman in the world, something like that. But she's a badass. I was looking into her, And she's like giving all her money away.
Yeah,
She's like, fuck it. I'm just gonna
she's given away $1 billion every month for the last couple of months.
fucking badass. Like, I feel bad for even like, I was like, okay, of course, like, woman divorces a man, takes all of his goddamn money. But like, no, it's actually like she's totally fucking badass. And I go on record right now saying that's a badass person. That's a badass human being.
I go on record saying right now, if she would like to if she would like to steer some of those billions my way, I will not reject it.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So question for you just about Quell, as we kind of wrap this up. Are you shopping around this EP once it comes out? What's the plans for it?
Yeah, I've been sending out some emails already. I've gotten one no, but it was a respectful no. So I didn't even think I was going to get the actual email back. So, yeah, no, it's out there. I will be continuing to shop it even after the release, but I think the goal is to this EP in particular has gotten a lot more attention than the last one has gotten.
Yeah.
And so regardless of it actually goes anywhere, gets a record deal or not, I'm just going to continue moving forward with the momentum, looking at as soon as this is done with getting the CDs out there, there's going to be like some merch options for people as well. And I'm already writing new songs, so I'm going to try and just stay current. I really like the EP thing too. I think I might just keep on doing these EPs, because especially with people's attention spans today. I mean, if I write a whole album and only like one or two songs are going to be listened to off the whole damn thing, I mean, it's kind of a waste in my opinion. So I think I'll just keep on doing the EP thing. I just got hooked up on most of the streaming platforms, so you can find the first Quell on everything: Spotify, Amazon, all that kind of stuff. And as soon as the new one comes out, that'll also be up there for everybody to stream and listen to. And the Bandcamp is going to be, available as well to everybody. That's where you can order the CDs and all that stuff, all that fun jazz,
I just had a gander now. So you're, it doesn't look like you're on Qobuz. However, there does seem to be somebody else on Qobuz called Quell.
Now there's like 21 Quells on Spotify alone, but it's through DistroKid. DistroKid has to take their time. So some of those streaming platforms might not be actually like registered yet, it comes in waves. Like, I got Amazon and then I just got Apple, and like Spotify came a couple days ago. So, but it should be on everything: YouTube Music, Google Music, like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Eventually, we'll see. I have to, I'm solo artist, so I have to go through and make sure all these accounts are set up as well. So I mean, make sure everything is all golden and good. So that takes a little bit of time as well. But that's the direction I'm moving in, though. I really like, I really like the feedback I've gotten already on it, and I'm stoked that people like some of the tracks. So yeah, we'll keep on going and do some more stuff, hopefully.
I like what you said about the EP idea as well. I think there's particularly certain bands I think it just works very well with. You look at Scour, for example.
The black. Did you hear the black one? That's so nice.
Fucking
so
brilliant.
Brilliant.
So good. But they Scour wouldn't. I actually don't think they would work doing a full length record. They're best taken in these kind of 26-minute doses where it's just 26 minutes of just violence and craziness, and then it's done. But black is awesome. Red I absolutely loved, and I've said it on my news rants many times, but massive kudos to Phil Anselmo. I think in terms of guys that have been able to keep themselves relevant, and guys that continue to do interesting things from that era, Phil is head and shoulders above many of his peers.
Feels great. I mean, I'll go on record saying this as well. There's a lot of these, artists are getting so much hatred for shit they've done in the past, and it may well be deserved or it may not well be deserved. But regardless, like their musical contribution to like the arts is not worth not recognizing as being great. And I'll say that about Varg Vikernes, I say that about Phil Anselmo, all these. When it comes to their music, their music is fantastic music, and you're lying to yourself if you say it's not. I mean, Pantera is a fucking fantastic band. I mean, without Pantera, I don't
totally
know.
Agree.
Just
the let's be honest with what it is. The low testosterone attitude that some of the youth in this scene have taken to say that, Pantera is crap, Pantera this, that, and the other. Like there's this, I won't mention the name because I'll start a public feud that he can't possibly win. But this fucking loser on Twitter and Instagram, every other thing that he posts is some, Pantera meme that he clearly made himself and thinks is hysterically funny. It's like, bro, you do realize that the 500 followers or whatever the hell you have, who you think are care about you so much, in your entire life, on your best day, you will never be worth sniffing Phil Anselmo's jockstrap as far as what that guy has achieved and what you try and make a name for yourself ragging on about.
Right. And I mean, I get it. Everyone has, everyone on the internet especially, they want to have their 15 seconds of fame or whatever, but I mean, I think everyone really knows. I mean, like, there's no denying that Down is a fucking fantastic band.
Yeah.
There's no denying that like Pantera left a serious mark, and the reason why you like Pantera isn't just because of Dimebag Darrell. It's because of Phil Anselmo as well.
Yeah.
I mean, and you just keep on going through the guy's career and all the guest like things he's done, and like, I mean, yeah, it's ridiculous.
The other thing is also, people just need to be consistent about stuff too. You can't point your finger at Phil Anselmo and cry racism or whatever else you want to call him, but then you've got a Motorhead t-shirt on. I'm sorry, but that doesn't
really
shine.
Good point.
It's so Lemmy is, according to the fucking losers from Metal Sucks, Lemmy is supposed to be this wonderful guy. But I mean, this dude had an entire fucking section of his house dedicated to Nazi memorabilia.
No. Well, I mean, eventually you're going to have to ask yourself, well, what happens when it's one of your favorite bands that people come under that comes under fire? Are you going to stand by them, or are you going to turn your back on them as well? Because it's a very thin line when you start slinging shit. It's going to start hitting everybody. And it might hit somebody that you like. Yeah, it's easy targets too for like the black metal world. I mean, come on, it's like it's not even. I said this to somebody just the other night. No one's canceling fucking Rosemary's Baby because Roman Polanski is a fucking child fucker.
Yeah.
Like no one's saying anything about Woody Allen.
Not just child fucker, child sodomizer.
Yeah.
He had anal sex with a 12-year-old.
Ain't nobody.
And you had idiots like Meryl Streep standing on stage. I mean, not even too long ago. I think this was like 2015. Like, I just wish Roman was still here. He would, he would really appreciate this. It's like,
Roman's hiding in
what the fuck?
He don't want to come back to the United States because they fucking crucify his ass for raping children and stuff that.
He'd get his wig split, mate. Have you ever seen this YouTube channel called I think it's Fresh Out Talk? And the guy presenting it, I'm not 100% sure what his name is. I'm thinking Big Herc, but I think that might be somebody else. But anyway, Fresh Out Talk is this dude who he's clearly spent a bit of time in prison. And so he's got this YouTube channel where he talks about his experiences in jail, what you need to do, what you don't need to do. And, he kind of is trying to educate folks on, reasons to stay out of jail. He did this fucking hysterical thing about the leader of the Chaz in Seattle.
Yeah.
And it was like, blah, blah, blah. Why is the leader of the Seattle Chaz crying? It's like, because he knows he's going to get his wig split when he gets to jail.
Right. Yeah, I mean, of course, most of those guys would be crying as soon as they got put in the jail. I mean, it's
yeah. I mean, they went after everyone in their fucking their best mate, especially last year it seemed. And again, the folks that did that were people like Meryl Streep, to refer to Harvey Weinstein as God. So it's madness to me. But I think a lot of this.
Bill Cosby was the family man that everybody loved. Yeah, he just also happened to have a proponency to drug women and molest them. Also,
yeah.
The
worst for me last year was Brian Callen and Crystalia, because I love those two guys so much. And I'm never going to get to see them do a podcast together. I mean, they should actually start their own podcast, because as far as I'm concerned, they could just do their own thing, put it on Spreaker, and they would make a fucking ton of money. Just just doing things completely privately, no network affiliation. You can get, I mean, I'd fuck, if I had the money, I'd sponsor them privately. They can just go, this episode is sponsored by our biggest fan, Jackie Smith. So, but I mean, those two guys together, if you listen to any of their Fighter and the Kid podcasts that they did together, or any of the episodes of the 10-minute podcast that was just the two of them,
I know both of them, and I know the
funniest shit
podcast
that I've ever heard in my entire life. It's just two people that just are roasting each other to within an inch of their lives, but you can hear they're really great friends. But you know, the thing for me is it was, you know, maybe their behavior was inappropriate, but let's be frank. Chris D'Elia came out. He had proof of the text messages and stuff. And you know, every single time that a girl said, "Well, I'm you know, I'm not 18 years old," he's like, "Okay, I can't continue the conversation anymore."
Okay, wait, hold on. You got to preface this because I don't know the incident you're speaking of.
Oh yeah, okay. So Chris D'Elia is a comedian.
Yeah, I know him and Brandon
out.
Schwab is, but and I know the
yeah.
podcast.
So big story came out that you know, he'd been acting inappropriately towards a string of women, and you know, women said, you know, he tried to proposition me and blah blah blah. Okay. So then they had all of these messages that came out where, you know, they were exchanging private messages on Instagram.
All right.
But then he came out with the full threads, and in the full threads, you know, every single time somebody said, "I'm, you know, younger than 18" or whatever the case may be, he'd cut the conversation short. So it's like, yes, he's flirting with someone and whatever the case may be. But one, there is a block button on Instagram. So if you're 22, if you're an attractive 22-year-old woman and a guy is talking to you like that, block him. If he then harasses you afterwards, yeah, then that's fucked up. But just you know, you can break the conversation. Same thing happened with Brian Callen. This woman came out and claimed that saying that he'd raped her, even though they still continued to work together for several months on end. You know, nothing was said about it at the time. And then all of a sudden in 2020, she plucks up the courage to do it. He's now since sued her, and he sued the LA Times for defamation of character. And I believe I may speak under correction, but the point is, you know, the cancel culture came for those two guys, and I'm miserable about it because I still go back and listen to their old podcasts because they're so fucking hysterical.
Well, I just, you know, I mean, if I could say anything about that, it's just, you know, cover your ass, you know, watch your shit. Like, don't assume that anyone has got your best interest in mind. You know, if you want to absolutely be sure that you're not going to get in any kind of trouble, like, just make sure that you're doing everything you can to, like, you know, if you're gonna, like, just for a simple example, like, if you're gonna drink in public, don't go drink in public in the middle of, like, Times Square, like, you know, go like off an alleyway and, like, sit somewhere and do it, like, you know. So I mean, you're, you know, if you're talking to young girls, you know, you're gonna get yourself in some shit eventually, you know. So maybe just don't talk to young girls. I don't know.
It's just crazy to me how many malicious people there are in the world. Because I mean, I've even heard Jamie Jasser talk about it on his podcast, where it's like, you know, you'll get these topless pics sent to you and stuff like that, and then, you know, initially he would, you know, he'd be flattered by it and he'd engage, and then the next thing you know is, oh, I'm 17 years old, I'm 16 years old. I was like, oh, okay,
that's
what
crazy.
the fuck?
Yeah, there's some sick people out there too. What was that? I think he was a British guy. What was that Lost Prophet singer?
Oh my God, Ian Watkins.
He still got women. He still has women sending him shit in prison.
So
how insane is that?
Think didn't he get married or something in prison?
Yeah,
so
he got married.
Is it Ian? Yeah, Ian Watkins.
That's sick.
Dude, that guy is fucking scum of the earth.
Scum of the earth. 100%.
Let's see. There's no real new news about him. The Daily Star had a news, had a news article, but I mean, the Daily Star is like one of those.
I'm surprised he didn't get stabbed in prison like the first day he was in there for the shit that he went in for, to be completely honest.
Sick Ian Watkins groups caught worshipping Lost Prophets pedo as their crush.
It's so crazy.
Fucking hell. Yeah. Well, dude, if he were in an American jail,
he'd be done. He'd be done. No, he'd be done.
Good night, nurse.
Because that's the thing, though. It depends on where he goes. Because, like, if they go to, like, California, they go to prison. They put all those guys in protective custody. They don't let those. They let those pedos sit together because they're fucking. You know, they protect people like that. I mean, that's crazy too. I mean, you know, you can do something horrible like rape a woman or molest a child, and you do like 6 months in jail, and then have to register as a sex offender. But you sell, you know, pot or fucking whatever. I mean, in California, you couldn't get in trouble for pot now, but you know, you sell some crystal meth or something like that, and you get stuck in there for a year. But this guy's going around diddling kids, and he gets out in 6 months, like, you know. And then they don't put him in general population. They put him in like protective custody because they know that everyone would like murder them. You know, they definitely kick the shit out of them. Yeah, 100%.
Not general population, mate. Gen pop.
Oh, yeah,
you need to get the lingo down.
I didn't want to be too telling about my experiences.
All right, buddy. Listen, thank you so much for your time.
Let's do this again.
Yes, we definitely will.
100%. It was so nice to be on here. Thank you for, you know, letting me talk a little bit about the Quell stuff, and just, you know, it was really nice just to see your face again and talk to you.
Yeah, for sure. No, great catching up, and we will definitely do one again at some point in the very near future.
All right, my buddy. Man, take care of yourself. Cheers.
You too, dude. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Of the
There was Incorporeal by Quell off an EP called Turning the Sun to Stone. By the time that you are listening to this, I believe that it should be available on Bandcamp, so head over there, show Evan your love and support, buy yourself some CDs and merchandise if he has any, and thank you very much to Evan for coming on the show. It was great having him on, and he will definitely be on again at some point in the not too distant future. I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation, because I certainly enjoyed having it. So let us move on to some reviews. I want to talk first and foremost about Scour. Scour, of course, is the black metal supergroup that features the talents of one Philip Horace Anselmo, he of Pantera fame, John Jarvis of Agoraphobic Nosebleed, All Will Fall. He was also in Pig Destroyer for a period of time. Derek Engerman of Cast of Stone, Conflux. He's also in Phil Anselmo's Philip H. Anselmo and the Illegals band. Adam Jarvis of Pig Destroyer and Misery Index, and then Mike Kloppel of Cast of Stone and Misery Index. So some serious pedigree in this band. That pedigree has translated into 2 EPs thus far, now Black being the third. The first one was Grey, that came out in 2016. I felt like that EP was very much a Dark Funeral ripoff, and not necessarily in a bad way. But it wasn't quite what the band ended up being with Red, which came out the year after. I feel like there the band started to showcase more of their songwriting chops, a little less reliance on kind of all-out speed, even though most of it was super fast. Black is kind of the same. In many ways, I feel like Black builds on all of the good things that were in Red. The songs are a lot sharper, I believe, on Black, a lot more focused, a lot more catchy. I feel like the band are really starting to hit their groove now, as far as who Scour are as a band, and I think it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. I mean, whether or not they are going to be doing a full length, or whether or not they kind of stick to the EP format, I don't know. Part of me feels like the EP format sort of suits them. I mean, this one in particular is only 16 minutes long, but 16 minutes is just enough of a dose of this style of, grim, fast, hyper-violent black metal to leave you wanting more, but to have done its job. But yeah, like I said, this is a great record. 6 tracks, of which one is a really interesting departure for the band. The song is called Microbes. It's kind of a sort of a classical orchestral soundtrack kind of track. It leads into the last song on the album, Subprime. I think another thing that the band does well on this album is they've mixed up the rhythms a little bit. I mean, again, for the most part, it's still super fast, but they show more of a willingness to slow it down, on occasion. And bring in a bit of a groove and a bit of a chug, and I think that works really well. I think the instrumental performances are top notch, as you'd expect from guys like this. Phil sounds great, even though I think he maybe cups the microphone a little too much sometimes. But again, still sounds superb. And I mentioned it on the podcast, but kudos to this dude for the extent to which he has been able to keep himself relevant. N Minor was incredible. Down is a fucking fantastic band, and Scour is a great band, and I hope that he really continues to pour his energies into all 3, because it's 3 shades of Anselmo, which I thoroughly enjoy. Other thing to mention about this record is I think the production really suits the style of black metal. It sounds warm. It kind of gives the instruments room to breathe, but without sounding too polished. Again, overall, I think if you're in the market for something that's going to fucking serrate your face, then Scour's Black EP is the one to do it. It's available right now on Nuclear Blast. Here is my favorite track off the EP. This is a song called Flames. That was Flames by Scour off the Black EP that's available now on Nuclear Blast. Go check them out on their Bandcamp page. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram. And if you turn up there and they ask you who sent you, then you let them know that it was old Jackson at Into the Necrosphere. I actually may potentially be having John Jarvis of Scour on the show at some point in the not too distant future. There is actually an interview scheduled to take place at the time that I'm recording this. So hopefully that goes ahead. And if it does, I have got much to discuss with him. And I'm sure that's something that, I hope that's something that you guys are going to enjoy. Okay, let's move on to another record that has really blown my hair back, what little of it remains. A band called Königreichssaal out of Poland. I don't know anything about these guys. To be frank, if you look at Metal Encyclopedia, they don't seem to know much about these guys either. It's a three-piece out of Poland. They have not been in any bands prior, or at least none of the bands that are listed on the Metal Encyclopedia. Papa, Artur, Jakub, and De Atevs. None of them have been in any bands of note. Königreichssaal haven't brought out any records that, or they'd brought out nothing before this, no EPs, no demo, no nothing. But they have dropped an absolutely extraordinary debut on Cult of Parthenope, a label based out of London, called Witnessing the Dearth. And as much as they hint at avant-garde black metal influences like Deathspell Omega and Mugwar in their bio, I really believe that what they've done is to take some of those influences and incorporate that into a band that in some ways I think sounds even more effective, which I know is a very, very big shout, but trust me, when you listen to this album, you will understand what I mean. There is a distinct lack of blast beats on this album, in contrast to Scour that I spoke about a few seconds ago. Everything on the record is very purposeful, very very slowed down, eerie, and very much focused around building these incredibly intense and involving atmospheres, and this really kind of dark ambience and dark mood. And this band just pull it off like they have been in this game for years, which, I don't know whether that is the case. Maybe these guys are, being particularly secretive about what it is that they do. Either way, Witnessing the Dearth apparently is a conceptual record focused on the fall of, as they would describe it, the human genre. I can think of no better soundtrack for it. There's 7 tracks on here. Multiples of them are kind of instrumentals or really kind of ambient tracks, but the real kind of meat and potatoes of it lies in the first half of the album. But again, from start to finish, I think this is really consistent, and it's an album that demands to be listened to end to end. Also, Cult of Parthenope are a label that, it must be said, I have not really paid much attention to previously, but I certainly will be doing now. I checked out a couple of other releases on their on the label. There was one band called Odium Humani Generis, which I thought was really cool, and I noticed that they've got a couple of other bands on their roster that would definitely be worth checking out. I mean, if the quality control at the label is such that Königreichssaal has gotten a look in, then somebody's doing something right over there. Another thing that I should mention about this record, and I know I've just praised the recording for the Scour EP, but Königreichssaal has just got a phenomenal sound, courtesy of Satanic Audio, who apparently did The Lost Blaze of Perdition as well. Again, I mean, whether or not there's a massive love of high-end audio in Poland, I don't know, but whoever's twiddling the knobs at Satanic Audio is doing a fucking sensational job. Enough from me. I'm going to play one of my favorite tracks off Witnessing the Dearth for you right now. This is a song called Ladder to Ego. That was Ladders to Ego by Königreichssaal off their fantastic debut, Witnessing the Dearth. Like I said at the very start of the show, had this come out at any point over the course of the months prior to me putting together my top 20 of 2020, it would almost certainly have made the list. Just phenomenal work. And if any of the gentlemen are listening to this, kudos, lads. You have done an absolutely amazing job. All right, time now for some news. And the first article to catch my eye is that Werewolves are dropping a new track. If you listen to my episode that I recorded with Kelly T, the first installment of my Top 20 of 2020, you will know that Werewolves made it onto number 13 with their The Dead Are Screaming debut. What a Time to Be Alive is the second full-length effort from this band. I may or may not have had a whiff or two of it a couple of months prior, and I can tell you now it's even better than The Dead Are Screaming. So it's coming out on January 29th through Prosthetic Records. It is fucking fantastic. If you liked the previous record, I think what they've done on this album is to take all the best elements of the first one and really kind of fine-tune it into a record that, if you dare to believe it, is even more aggressive than its predecessor. The song that they have released is called Antisocial. Check it out now. I believe it's on their Facebook. I know I've shared it as well, I believe, on social media. But it is absolutely fantastic. Ulvedhar streaming Death Stare official video. Death metalers Ulvedhar have released an official clip of the song Death Stare, taken from their latest album World of Chaos. This apparently features a guest appearance by LG Petrov of Entombed. LG was the guy who very sadly was diagnosed with cancer. It says here, states the band of the video, this video captures the essence of ours as musicians, partners in crime, and friends. In a few minutes, we will take you to Sweden during the recordings of World of Chaos on tour and on stage. We had the extraordinary chance to record the song, one of the highlights of our career, which features the mighty Lars Goran Petrov of Entombed AD. At the end of this video, you'll find the official link to support Lars's medical expenses in his current battle with cancer. I did talk about that when the news first broke. Really, really sad news about LG. Again, as far as I know, he's not too old. I mean, he's like in his early 50s. So if you do have a few ducats to spare, then click on the link and do show some support, because I believe that the poor guy is having a fairly bumpy ride at the moment, as everybody who has cancer is bound to experience. Combi Christ to embark on European tour next summer. I still think that a lot of these touring plans that are being scheduled are pretty optimistic. And again, I'm supposed to be spending my birthday watching the True Mayhem. I'm not sure whether that's going to happen. I'm actually supposed to be going away at the end of January to Dubai for a couple of days to meet up with my friend Lo Reichert, who I actually had on the show way back on, I think, episode 33 or something. It was early on last year. I don't know whether that's going to happen either. But anyway, Combi Christ are a band who, in my view, really kind of got very far away from the things that used to make them great. And I mean, they're not a black metal band or a death metal band. They're not the sort of band necessarily that fits into the mold of Into the Necrosphere. But I really, really liked their early stuff. What the Fuck Is Wrong With You People record was fantastic. The one that was out before that, I think Everybody Hates You, awesome as well. They had a bunch of really, really cool stuff, and they had a really good, unique sound to them, which they then decided to give away because they wanted to sound like some fucking Static X or Fear Factory clone, and it just sounds like complete and utter crap. That being said, they do still play some of the older stuff live, and I have seen them live quite a few times, and I can tell you now they are excellent on stage. It just not so much when some of that new muck is aired. What else? By the way, you guys will notice that I'm recording this on the 30th of December, and it's only going to be going up in about 2 weeks' time, but that is because when work begins for me again, I'm going to be busy as fuck. I am being lined up for a very big job at work, and there's a few things that need to happen before that promotion can be fully realized. and I suspect I'm going to be working some 14, 16-hour days on the reg when the new year kicks in. So I kind of want to try and get these done. I have a couple of guests in the pipeline, a couple of folks that I've invited for interview. I want to get as many of these in the canon as I possibly can, so that I don't run out of time, or I don't put myself in a position where I'm kind of running behind schedule or whatever the case may be. So hence why some of this news, by the time that you actually see this, is probably going to be pretty dated. Dead Cross put out new music video. Dead Cross premiere new music video for the song Skin of a Redneck. The footage for the clip was recorded during their European run in 2018 in support of their self-titled EP. Dead Cross, of course, the supergroup featuring Mike Patton of Faith No More, as well as Dave Lombardo of Suicidal Tendencies, formerly of Slayer. I am a very, very big fan of both musicians. I don't necessarily agree with the fact that they've used Dead Cross as a signpost for their ridiculous political beliefs, but that being said, I really, really liked the first Dead Cross record. The EP I thought was very cool too. The cover that they do of Bela Lugosi's Dead is fucking brilliant. I mean, I really like the original of that track anyway, but the cover they do is top notch. I mean, Mike Patton, let's be frank, is a guy whose voice is so great that I would sell my left testicle to have fucking 10% of his talent if that were an option available to me, but sadly not. We move on down. I think that a lot of stuff, not a lot of stuff of much interest happened over Christmas. Although we'll move on to Blabbermouth in a second, because I'm sure there'll be stuff that we can talk about there. The Ruins of Beverath. The Ruins of Beverast unleash Cromlech Knell song. This is the newest track from the Ruins of Beverast's forthcoming record, The Tool of Grimoires. The new outing is ready for release on February 5th, 2021 via Van Records. I have not heard the whole thing yet. I did really like this song. My buddy Andre absolutely detested it, and I think posted, much to the chagrin of Alex's many disciples, that Ruins of Beverast have gone soft on the Ruins of Beverast YouTube, and yeah, people did not like that. I mean, this sounds rather different to me than Exuvia, but my friend Steve Jenkins has heard the whole thing, and he actually said that it sounds quite similar to Exuvia, at least in far as it sounds like a natural continuation of it. I might try and see if I can get Alex on for another interview, although the last time round was a 6-month campaign to try and make that happen. So not sure whether it'll be as easy again, but to get him on again would be very cool. One of the, I think probably because of the new record coming out, one of the videos that was most watched of mine over the Christmas period was actually my interview with him, and you guys seem to have really appreciated the chat. I mean, I certainly really enjoyed it as well, and particularly so because I am such a huge fan of this band, and I'm such a huge fan of this guy as a musician and a songwriter. And like I said, I like the song. I know it sounds a lot like Typo Negative. It's like Typo Negative and Exuvia had a kid, but that's no bad thing. Okay, next, Hate is recording a new full-length. The title has been unveiled. It's called Rugia. The new material will feature 9 new tracks and is planned for a summer 2021 release on Metal Blade Records. The last Hate album, I didn't mind. I certainly didn't get me jumping up and down for joy, but it wasn't a shit record. So I'll give that a look. There's a lot of stuff that come out on labels like Metal Blade that I just don't have much of an interest in anymore. I understand the legacy of those labels. I understand that they have put out a lot of groundbreaking stuff and stuff that, quite frankly, the scene wouldn't be the same without. But nowadays, the stuff that they do, I just feel is a little bit too. It's just a bit too polished for my taste. And I'll tell you another band who I think is too polished by no small stretch of the imagination, Flesh God Apocalypse. They are apparently streaming a new single called No, which is fine because I'll say no to watching it. This is a band to me that I think people that were of the Iron Maiden school of heavy metal growing up would probably be into. I myself was not. I like my metal to be nastier and dirtier. Like Fleshguard Apocalypse to me is a lot like Cataclysm in that they, no matter what they do, they can make their production as heavy as possible. They can throw in 500 different variations of the blast beat. They can do whatever they want, and it's never going to make them sound truly convincingly brutal and aggressive. There's just something lacking in their music. Okay, so that's pretty much Metal Storm wrapped up for this week. Let's move on to Blabbermouth. And let's see. Paul Stanley on Kiss's New Year's Eve concert. We've never been known for our subtlety, and we're not going to start now. Kiss recently announced a New Year's Eve concert at the Atlantis Resort in Dubai. That Atlantis Resort is fucking badass. I'm not staying there, unfortunately, when I go, but it is very, very cool. And has one of my favorite things in the world, loads of water slides. That being said, I'm surprised to see an article with Paul Stanley where he isn't condemning Trump's response to COVID-19. Lars Ulrich, Metallica's best record is still ahead of us. I'm not so sure about that, old man. In the latest issue of Classic Rock magazine, Metallica drummer Lars Ulrich promised the follow-up to 2016's Hardwired to Self-Destruct will be the best album he and his bandmates have ever made. It's the heaviest thing, the coolest, but all kidding aside, if it wasn't because we thought the best record was still ahead of us, then why keep doing it? That's fair enough. I just personally, I think that I've probably fallen in the camp of the band not really having made anything that I'm interested in beyond And Justice for All. That being said, and I have mentioned this before, but some of the acoustic stuff that they recorded later on was really good. There was a bootleg release they did called, I think it was for the All Within My Hands Foundation, and they had an acoustic version of Bleeding Me on that. Bleeding Me, of course, a track off Load, which, if anyone who's truly cult despises, but, I can say that I like it because I don't give a shit. Yeah, Bleeding Me is a great song, but when they do it on that particular bootleg, when they do it live in that setting, acoustically, fantastic. And that, to me, feels like that's where the band is at their most comfortable and where they want to be. And I've spoken many times before about bands needing to make the records that they are in the mood to make, or that they feel inspired to make, and I don't feel like Metallica is inspired to make particularly aggressive and heavy music. I mean, and I don't blame them. I don't understand how you can be worth $350 million or whatever stupid amount Lars and James are worth, and actually still wake up in the morning and go, fuck the world. It doesn't make any sense to me. So, I don't blame these guys. It's like when people rag on Lars's drumming. Yeah, it sucks, but I know he said in an interview a little while ago that he doesn't have anything to prove to anybody, and people were like, oh yeah, but there's all these great drummers and you do need to prove yourself. It's like, no, he doesn't. The guy has absolutely won the game. He's worth more money than probably the next 25 great drummers combined, more than that even. He doesn't have shit to prove to anyone, and Metallica doesn't have shit to prove to anyone. I mean, I'll still listen to the new Metallica record, but I think their best record is probably about 25 or 30 years ago. Let's see what else there is. Devin Townsend's advice to younger musicians: you need to learn how to fail efficiently. I've met Devin. I think he's a lovely guy. Like I've said before, the happy, heavy direction that he's taken things into, as far as his writing is concerned, is it sickens me, quite frankly. I don't think happiness belongs in heavy music. Okay, let's see what else there is. I don't want to read about Matt Sorum getting into Guns N' Roses. System of a Down's Tankian and Odegian reflect on Chop Suey being released shortly before the 9/11 terrorist attacks. System of a Down's music video for the song Chop Suey recently surpassed 1 billion views on YouTube. It's the first System of a Down track to reach the milestone. In a new interview with Apple Music's Zane Lowe, System singer Serge Tankian reflected on the response to Chop Suey when the song originally came out. He said, Chop Suey was released a week or two before September 11th, 2001, and on September 11th, when the whole plane's crashing into the World Center, the catastrophe that happened. Our album was #1. Toxicity isn't a bad record. It's a lot better than the absolute car crash pile of muck that is their debut. That being said, if I never ever hear this stupid ass song in my entire life again, I will die a happy man. It was shit when it came out. It was the weakest song on the record by far. And much like Bring Your Own Bombs, it is a song for fucking nerds who have no interest in being part of the metal scene to begin with and are desperate for acceptance everywhere else. And when they listen to a song like that, then they feel like, finally, I can be the sellout that I've always dreamt of being. That's pretty much it for this week. I don't think there's all that much more to talk about. Which in turn means that it is time for me to wrap up. I hope that you guys had a great Christmas and a safe, restful, and relaxing one at that. I spent most of it watching movies. I replayed The Last of Us 2, which even on second playthrough is absolutely spectacular. Although, and spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't played it yet, the two characters that you end up playing of the two, I, on second playthrough, like Abby even more, and I'm very disappointed that she didn't end up killing Ellie, who is turned into a whiny little cow on Last of Us 2. But yeah, great game. I watched a couple of movies, not really anything new that I haven't seen yet, but I showed Bone Tomahawk to my girlfriend, and if you guys have seen that, there's a part where a guy gets cut down the middle from crotch to nose, and it is fucking brutal. And her response was pretty much exactly what I suspected that it would be. And then I've got a couple more days, obviously, till New Year's. I'm going to go pick up my daughter tomorrow. I picked up, for those of you that are inclined towards home theater, I picked up a 4K Blu-ray player shortly before Christmas as a little gift to myself, and I also picked up the new 4K remaster of The Lord of the Rings, and it is fucking incredible. I was not the biggest fan of that trilogy for the longest time, and I think because of how much my daughter likes it, I've kind of gotten into it myself now. But the work that they have done with this remaster, the new Atmos soundtrack, they've kind of redigitized a bunch of the special effects, and obviously cleaned up the picture significantly. It is mind-blowingly good. So I'm picking her up tomorrow, and we're going to spend the next couple of days watching the director's cuts for the first 3 movies, and then I'll get The Hobbit and we'll watch that. She's a little young still for the likes of Predator and Alien, even though she keeps pestering me to watch it. But I think her mother will probably have something to say about that if I do, and I'm no glutton for punishment. But anyway, on that note, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and I will be back with you all next Tuesday on YouTube, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever else you catch this podcast on. Thanks for being with me from the mean streets of Great Shefford. I am wishing all of you bad motherfuckers a fond farewell.